describing Georgina to me as best you can.
Georgina is my second daughter. She'll be 35 now. She is very lively, very active, friendly, very friendly girl. She's a mummy to two boys. She loved life, really. She loved cooking. She loved animals. She was very family orientated. She was very close to us, me and her sisters. I would say quite codependent, Georgina. She had lots of dreams, but didn't always, life didn't always turn out that way for her. And Georgina, the last time we saw Georgina was on the 7th of March 2018, when she left my home one morning to go to the town and was never seen again. That's the last time we ever saw or heard from Georgina.
I mean, Andrea, that's 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
When you last saw or heard from her. And if you can you try and put into words just how difficult that period has been in your life?
It has been very difficult. It doesn't get easier. As people always say, with time it must get easier, but it doesn't. I think it gets a bit harder because you're still desperately grasping at anything, any hope. Even though Georgina's case has been classed as a homicide, with no evidence, there's no evidence. So for us, we still do hold on to some bit of hope. So every day, because we haven't had any evidence of that, my campaign has been, it's been continued since Georgina first. We knew she first had gone missing, and that's how I spend quite a lot of my time, is campaigning, creating awareness for Georgina, just keeping her story out there, keeping her picture out there, just in case there is anybody that does happen to know anything or did happen to see her, and to prompt them or encourage them to come forward. It's been really hard, and I have to keep up, support for my daughters and her children as well, because they live with me now as well, and they still are waiting for their mummy to come home. They haven't accepted that there could be a possibility that mummy won't come home. They believe that mummy is going to come home. So for me, it's I have to sometimes put aside all my emotions and feelings to keep everybody uplifted and keep them with that faith and hope that we will get answers, even though I know there's a strong possibility that we may never see Georgina again. I do know that, but just because there isn't any evidence of any of her belongings or anything or her being found, you do hear these stories all the time when people turn up after 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years. So just for me, it's just to keep her story out there all the time, and just keep holding hope, really.
And I know you are so desperately keeping that story out there as much as you possibly can to just try and get those answers. But in doing that, you actually attracted the attention of a group of people you want nothing to do with whatsoever, scammers.
Yeah, we have had quite a lot. I think it was in July 2018, a few months after Georgina had been missing. The first time I had somebody contact me through Facebook Messenger, and he said that I know where your daughter is. She's been missing 4 or 5 months. And at that time, I think in the beginning, you are very naive. You're very new to this, and unlike the other families who've probably been in it at that time 4 or 5 years. so you're not aware of all these things that do go on, and you do tend to, you want to sort of go head in, engaging with all of these people. You could, because you think it might just be true, even though maybe at the time they just might seem ridiculous, or just you think, oh no, that can't be possible. Part of you still thinks, well, I want to engage, and I want to talk, I want to see what they've got to say. It might just be true. And we had this person contact us through Facebook Messenger, and he said that I know where she is, I've seen her, and I sort of, I was responding saying, well, where? And I tried to call him, audio call him, and he didn't answer at the time. But he continued sort of engaging in the conversation, and he said, I've been visiting South Africa, and my friend lived near this children's orphanage, and she was there. And I said, well, why would she be in a children's orphanage? He said, no, believe me, she was there. And part of you just thinks, even though now it just seems really sort of mad, but at that time, because it was, you just really, really desperate, and you want to listen to anything because you think, well, it could be. And he just said, she's there. And I said, well, can you send me a picture? And he said, well, I'll try. And this went on a couple of days. And in the meantime, it was like, I've been to speak to her, spoken to her today. And I'm like, well, what did she say? And he said that she asked me to help. She's got no passport. She's lost her passport. And I said, well, she didn't have a passport anyway. He said, well, she wants me to help her. So I said, can you send me a picture? Can you get a picture? And it was another day before, and he sent me a picture. And as soon as I saw it, it was just, you could see he'd lifted it off a photo, or taken it off the one of the Facebook pages, and then it was put onto something, and it was like it had all these flowers around it. And I sort of looked at it, and straight away, I said, well, that's not a proper picture. And then he says, she needs my help, but I don't have any money. And at that time, I just thought, oh, this is a scam. And I didn't engage with them again. And then it was less than a month later, I had another one, and I wasn't sure if it was the same person. Say Facebook Messenger, it was just less than a month, and it was again, I know where your daughter is. I've seen her. I live in Nigeria, and I've seen her on Facebook on all the missing pages. And if you want me to help get her out, I can get a passport for her, and I just knew. I just thought, oh. And then my daughters were always telling me, Mum, don't engage with these people, but. I just thought, well, I have to, just in case there might just be that minute possibility, because when you're desperate, you just listen to anything. It's like all the I would say hundreds of psychics and mediums and clairvoyants that contact us all the time. And, I do listen to a lot of them, I must admit. And then I think it gets to a point where they never really help, and nobody ever says the same story. And I just think, well, maybe if they say the same story as that other one, and there might be some truth in it, might be able to help, then I can go and have a look. But nobody ever does. And then I perhaps sort of leave it for a few months and think, I'm not going to engage with them anymore, that's it, I'm done with them. And then somebody else pops up and says, well, I've got this gift, and you've got these messages, and I can see your daughter. And I think, oh, well, I'll just give this one another try, just maybe.
You're desperate for answers.
You're just desperate.
You're desperate for answers. Yeah. You want people to give you the answers that you've been looking for 5 years.
People don't really understand that, because they'll say, oh, I wouldn't listen to all that if I was you. But, I always say, but when you're desperate, you do listen to them. And it was like about 3 years ago, the journalist from the local newspaper, the Herald, he contacted us one day, and he just said, I've been contacted by somebody who says that he is holding your daughter ransom. He said, I've contacted the police already, because they contacted him straight away on the journalist on the newspaper. Then I had the police our team contact me and say, we need to come and see you. There's somebody who's claimed to be holding Georgina. we're not, if we're not really sure about it, but we still need to look into it. So they came round straight away, and we went through it. They just said that they had also contacted several other news media outlets along the south coast, and said the same story. They were holding Georgina. If they wanted something like 50,000 bitcoins, and if we didn't give them that by the following Wednesday, they would kill her and put her outside the local hospital. At the time that we liaised with the police, they were asking us questions that they could give them, sort of present to them, and that nobody else would know. So we were trying to think of things like maybe Georgina's pets from when she was younger and things like this. The police gave them to that person. They didn't come back with direct answers to that, but they said they had other answers, like, oh, Georgina had a pet, didn't she? A black and white cat, and which wasn't the correct answers to what we'd given them, but they were sort of, around that.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, we just said, well, how would he know that? How would he know that? The police had asked them, could they send some pictures of proof or voice recordings or anything. In the meantime, my daughter contacted me, one of my daughters. She said, Mum, I've just realised, she said, this information that they're giving us now is on Georgina's Facebook, and they've actually gone through it, gone right back like years, and perhaps picked out her when she was 15 with her her new kitten. And so, because in the beginning when they said, oh, Georgina said, I used to have a black and white kitten, and when you first hear that, you think, well, that's true, there must be some truth in it, and you do. And well, it was overwhelming, and for those few days we were really sort of invested in it, thinking it could be true. When they didn't directly answer the questions which we presented, though, and the police then had also managed to, in those few days that they were sort of keeping them engaged, they managed to locate the IP address, which come from South Africa as well. And they'd also linked it up to 2 other scams, not from missing people, but some other things. And they said they already know that it's as soon as they mentioned another scam to me, I was pretty sure then at that time that, I just thought, oh, there's nothing in this, and it's just somebody trying to get some money. And the police then said to them they wasn't going to pay the money, and then they turned around and said to them, well, will you give us half of the money then? And I said, who on earth, what person, if they were really doing this kidnapping, would say, well, we'll take half of the money then, and then they tried to carry it on a bit, and then all of a sudden they just said they've just completely stopped. Once they said they wasn't going to give the money, they completely stopped. That was another one. I think that was about 2 years down the line. And then we had another one where somebody again contacted me on Facebook Messenger, and he said that he knew where Georgina was. His job was to move people around, and I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, that's my job. I've been asked by this person, I can't exactly remember his name now, but he's actually in Germany, and he's asked me to go and move Georgina from Germany to Thailand. And I said, what for? And he said, I don't know. He said, I don't ask questions. I'm just paid to do this job. That's my job. I'm a mover. And I was like quite naive, and I said, well, why do you have to move us from Germany to Thailand then? He just said, well, I don't know. He said, but I know from her name, they've told me her name, and I recognise this name, and that she's a missing person, and that's why I've contacted you. If you want to, you can try and get your daughter back, and I won't have to move her, but you need to go onto this place called the dark web. And I said, well, I'm not sure about that. I don't think I can do that. And he said, you need to go on there. If you want to get your daughter back, you need to go onto this place. I'll send you the link, and you go onto it. you press onto it and go, and then you follow everything that it says, then you need to pay the money. And he said, you pay the money for her. He said, then that means I won't have to move her because they've got the money. And I just said, well, I don't think I can do that. I'm not IT savvy, and I don't really.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, it's really simple. He said, really simple. I'll send you the link. You go onto it and that. And I was like scared at the time, and I just, and I was sort of telling my daughters, and they were saying, don't you dare go on there, Mum. Don't go on there. And I'd actually told the police as well. And in the meantime, he'd sent me like photocopies of a German passport, and he said, "Look, this is the guy who's the boss," and something like Frank something on it, and it was a photocopy. He said, "This is his name. This is my boss." So I gave it to the police as well. I said, "This is what they've sent me." In the meantime, they'd contacted the police in Germany. They'd come back with it's a fake passport. That person doesn't exist. And don't engage with him anymore, and definitely don't go on to that. He said what they want you to do is go onto the link, and it's going to ask you for some money, and you're going to pay it, and because they think that you're desperate and vulnerable and naive, and you're going to get Georgina by paying this money, which
absolutely
I did.
Awful. Andrea, do you mind me asking how much money were these, what you now know to be scammers, how much were they asking for?
He didn't say, because he said it will tell you once you go onto the link on the dark web. That will tell you what you need to do. So he didn't give me he didn't mention money, but because he said it would be on there. I mean, I did sort of press into Google dark web, and I sort of that, and then I was scared, and I
Away from that. What about the previous scammer, Andrew? Did they give any indication?
The other one about the kidnap and the ransom, that was the 50, I think 50,000 or something bitcoins. And the other ones, they didn't mention how much, but they just said, I can get a passport, but I need money to do it. And then at that time, I didn't really engage with them anymore, so I never knew, what they wanted.
But Andrea, with someone who's clearly in so much pain every day, just wanting answers for where your daughter is, knowing that people are trying to get money out of you and just use you as an opportunity to scam, how does that make you feel?
It's sad to think that people actually prey on missing persons' families as well. But I think people like that, they don't care, do they? They don't care, they don't care about people or who they get it from. I suppose they just think that people like us are vulnerable, naive, desperate, and we will pay it. I mean, maybe in different circumstances I might have done, but I know there's so many scams linked to South Africa, Nigeria, and places like that, so I'm aware of those. But maybe if it had been somebody here and they'd come up with another story, I might very well have done. I was a little bit sceptical, in the beginning, about this dark web and the German guy, and I thought, well, it could be, there's always sort of trafficking and things like this that does go on, and maybe it is a possibility. But I mean, I certainly wouldn't have gone onto the link and paid the money just like that. I wouldn't have done. Not because I don't want to find my daughter. I mean, I do, but not in that. It was just little things that, in your head at the time. And even though I'm really, I was naive in the beginning. Now, over the 5 years, I've spoken to so many people. I've read so many stories. I've had all these people contact me. I mean, I had somebody a few weeks ago who said, "Oh, my cousin in India is such a great, he can read fortunes and he can tell what's happened to people. You need to ring this number in India." And I just said, "Oh, can he contact me on the Facebook Messenger?" She said, "Well, it'd be better if you ring him. This is his number. You ring him now." And I sort of, and it was somebody that a friend who actually helps on the missing page, admin the missing page, was sort of reading it as well, was going, "Don't ring the number, don't ring the number." I mean, I must admit, I just did think, should I just ring it and
You're desperate for
just
answers.
ring it and
You're
see?
desperate for answers.
Yeah. But they just sort of said, "Don't ring the number, don't ring it," and I was like, "Oh, I nearly did," because you are desperate. And they come back to me. The friend of that person come back to me and said, "Why haven't you rang them yet?" And I just said, "Well, why can't they speak to me on here first?" And they just said, "Oh, you know." And I thought, there was just little things in my head sometimes that make, you know, little warning things, thinking, follow it, because
I'm just taking that moment and listening to those little warning signs, the alarm bells that are ringing is just enough to save people like you from losing your cash. Andrea, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I'm just going to check with Kate, our director, just to see if there's anything else we just need to pick up from you. I know you've said an awful lot there. Just bear with us one moment, Andrea. I'm just going to ask her now, okay? No, Kate. Kate's happy. Andrea, I'm so happy with everything you shared. Are you happy?
Yeah, thank you very much.
To get across. I think your story, Andrea, just explaining how this has happened to you and you're literally living this every day, and all you want is answers, and the fact that these scammers have tried numerous times to steal from you, I think just shows how low these criminals go. And I can only wish you every success in getting those answers that you and your family deserve.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Andrea. Thank you.
Bye.
Andrea, I'll just stay on the line there, darling. Kate's going to come over and just explain what to do with the recordings.
Okay, right.
Just to make sure we get that. Andrea, thank you so much.
Right.
Talking to you.